The Manly Warringah Sea Eagles aren't simply inconsistent. For nearly 2 seasons now, they've been operating at the extreme ends of the spectrum as it relates to competitiveness. Their most recent capitulation at the hands of the don't call them Redcliffe Dolphins is simply further proof the Sea Eagles are sport's most Jekyll and Hyde franchise. It is fairly remarkable. Manly switches from world beaters to bottom feeders with a violent suddenness. A violent suddenness you don't normally find apart from a drunk female American college exchange student at a disco in Europe. Look, as an American, I cannot explain why that is a thing, but that is very much a real thing. As for the Sea Eagles, this change, it's not even a game-to-game shift or a half-to-half shift. It's a transformation that can take place in the blink of an eye. Things will be going great, and then all of a sudden, a flip switches, and immediately things unravel entirely for the team on the field. The situation is sort of similar to the Telstra This Is Footy adverts where the ragtag groups of hicks from the sticks lines up across a team that is definitely not supposed to represent New South Wales, but looks suspiciously a lot like New South Wales. Their captain goes from confident to worried in like 4 seconds because a hillbilly mean mugs him. That, of course, is fantasy. The Sea Eagles' woes are firmly based in reality, and the reality here is that the Manly Sea Eagles are the most Jekyll and Hyde team in sports today.
Manly, 26-12, with 7 to go, have been run down.
This can all be traced back to round 15, 2020. The Sea Eagles were cruising to victory against the Cowboys, a side that had won 7 of their previous 8 contests heading into this showdown at Brookvale Oval. With 5 minutes remaining, the Sea Eagles were up 26-12 and a shoo-in for the 2 points. 5 minutes later, and they were trailing 28-26. They would go on to lose in a shocking comeback. It was a legendary collapse. It's also the moment, though, you can trace back to the Sea Eagles becoming this very Jekyll and Hyde side, a side you don't know what's going to turn up or even perform during a game. For nearly 2 seasons now, no Sea Eagles lead has been safe, no performance sustainable over the course of a full game. They could be down by 12, they could be up by 12, and honestly, that deficit could be gone in the blink of an eye. 1 week after the Cowboys loss, Manly almost did one better. With about 6 minutes left in their matchup against the Melbourne Storm, Manly was leading 36-12, a very, very comfortable margin. The final score of this game, 36-30. And make no mistake here, if there had been even 1 more minute remaining, that game is going to golden point. Manly was on the fast track to a loss and were saved by the bell, or I guess siren in this case. The unraveling of Manly really continued on throughout the remainder of the 2022 season. Now, there were a few reasons for that. The club was having some turmoil for various issues, but not even that can completely explain the uneven performances here. In round 21 against Parramatta, they had a 20-14 lead against the Eels in the second half. Despite this, they would go on to lose the game 36-20. A 12-all tie against the Titans would be extended out to a 38-12 laugher in favor of Gold Coast, but then the Sea Eagles got their act together and made it a game once more with 10 minutes remaining. They went on to lose here, but there were just periods of domination and futility. These were on full display. The 2022 season would end with another one of the side's patented Jekyll and Hyde performances, this one against the Bulldogs. Manly raced out to a 16-0 lead inside 20 minutes. Things were looking up for the Sea Eagles. They then lost their way and somehow found a way to lose this game 21-20 with Matt Burton kicking a 1-point field goal to give Canterbury Bankstown the win. The end of that campaign would see Des Hasler relieved of his coaching duties and replaced by Anthony Seibold. With some changes to the coaching staff and the playing squad, you would think the wildly inconsistent in-game performances would become a thing of the past. After all, that is why you make these changes to begin with. Instead, the team would continue to find new and exciting ways to lose leads or claw them back in an almost incomprehensible fashion. In round 3 of 2023, Manly went up by 14 points early on, threw that lead away, went up by 12 points with 10 minutes left, and almost choked the contest away. They were a Mitch Moses misconversion away from being tied with 5 minutes left, and at that point, who knows what happens. Later on in that season, you have the draw against the Knights, where Manly raced out to a 10-0 lead, found themselves down by 12 in the second half, retook the lead 10 minutes later, and then conceded a late tie that would see that contest end in a draw. A few weeks later, and Manly would do its best to hand eventual Wooden Spooners the West Tigers a few points. The men from the northern beaches rushed out to a 12-point lead, looked like they were in control of this matchup, but then found themselves down 16-14 later on. They did come back to win this game, but it was entirely too close. There was no reason for this game to have been this competitive. There was another Jekyll and Hyde performance against the Knights in round 13 of 2023. The Sea Eagles went up 8-0, fell behind, went up again 14-10, and would eventually lose that game 28-18. In round 21 of that season, Manly managed to put up a 30 spot against the Sharks early on in the second half, a lead which seemed insurmountable at the time. Well, insurmountable to any team that wasn't the Sea Eagles, who proceeded to try their hardest to lose this contest, conceding 26 straight points. And really, they hung on by the absolute thinnest of margins here. Will Kennedy had a chance to kick it into the end goal to try to get a tie and perhaps even a conversion that would have won the game. Lachlan Croker here makes a hell of a play to seal the win that shouldn't have needed sealing at all. There was no reason for Manly to have let the game ever reach this point where Cronulla had a chance to tie it up. Apparently they had learned nothing, because the following week they allowed St. George Illawarra to take an 8-0 lead. Seagulls posted 22 straight points and then once again allowed the Dragons to get back into the contest. They weren't necessarily hanging on for dear life here, but this was a result that ended far too close for comfort. 2023 has just been more of the same. Round 3 against Parramatta, the Sea Eagles would take a 14-0 lead early on in the first half. They of course couldn't hold on to that, let the Eels go up by double digits, and then almost mounted a comeback. Against the Warriors, the team had a 16-point first half lead that was reduced to 12 in the second half, but still looking pretty good for Manly, until they found a way to toss it in the bin, that is. I mean, sure, a draw is better than a loss in this scenario, but Manly was once again in the driver's seat. They just needed to get the thing home, and they could not get it done. They couldn't secure 2 points here in a result that was all their own doing. A week later against the winless Gold Coast Titans, and it was more Jekyll and more Hyde, really, with the volume turned up to 11 here. There were times when it appeared as if Manly were going to score 60 points against the Titans, and then a few minutes later, it looked like they could concede 60 points to the Gold Coast. The second even the smallest thing went wrong, the team folded. And when a small positive happened, boom, it was a complete 180. Then we have recent losses to the Raiders and the Dolphins. The story here is just more of the same that has borne out over the past 2 years. Peaks and valleys coming in sudden succession, minutes, even seconds apart in some cases. The one thing I do want to point out here is that this is only a macro level look. If you really dig into the minutiae of Sea Eagles games over this period, the trend is even more evident. This, by the way, is not simply rugby league momentum, just your typical arm wrestle. No, this is a team that has these wild and sudden shifts that are almost seemingly inexplicable on the surface. Take their recent victory against the Panthers as proof of that. There were times when Manly looked like a side capable of winning the comp. They were that good. Then a few minutes later, it appeared as if half the team had never even played together. And if you go back and watch Manly games since that disaster against the Cowboys in 2022, you see a lot more of the same here. The one thing I've noticed analysts doing quite a bit when it relates to Manly, though, is that they look at the problems through a keyhole, a span of a few weeks. In reality, though, these are deep-rooted issues that now go back years. In sports, you hear about teams playing down to the competition. Well, the Sea Eagles somehow, someway, seem to play down to the situation here. It's not about the team, it's about, is it easy for us? How are we doing? It's wild, man. Coaches have changed, players have changed, the number of teams in the NRL has even changed, but one thing remains the same. The only consistent thing about the Manly Warringah Sea Eagles is inconsistency. Sudden, dramatic inconsistency. Thank you for watching this video. If you'd like to know more about what team this guy would like to see playing in Las Vegas next season, video upper right hand corner of your screen is the place to go. And for more information on what NRL teams may have stolen their name from NFL clubs, video lower right hand corner of your screen. Until next time, I'm Cheyenne Hollis. This is The Touchback. And as always, hashtag take it out to the 25.